And we're rolling.
So, I'm back. Really, I never left. That's the whole point. I was with myself the entire time. The solo experience was really, in some ways, exactly what I thought it would be, and in some ways, exact opposite of what I thought it would be. Um, it was how I thought it would be, in that I knew that I would slow down. I knew that for me, especially since I was fasting, and I'm usually just a very hungry person, a real caloric furnace, as I like to say, I knew that I would be getting a feedback loop from my body where my body would tell me I need to do less because I'm not eating. And then doing less would in turn make me not have any urge to eat. And it just went on like that with a beautiful harmony. But I will say that it was different in that it was just easier than I thought it would be. You know, just talking about the fasting part, for me, it really helped sort of dispel this myth that I always need food, because again, as a personal trainer and as someone who's been, an elite athlete, I've always looked at, that performance edge. And for better or for worse, I've started to look at sort of calories as fuel. And even though I love the taste of food, sometimes I get too deep into that calories are fuel headspace. And that's true when you're pushing the envelope, cycling or running or doing a triathlon. But this other side of me that I'm trying to explore more, especially as I get older, because I just know something's whispering, that it's important for me, for my own sustainability in life as I get older, to slow down. It was really amazing to see how easy the fast was. Again, that feedback loop was so perfect, and I just listened to my body. It told me to do less. I wanted to do less anyways, and in turn, I didn't need as much. And so I'm going to continue to think on that for the coming weeks and months, and hopefully for the rest of my life, I'll be able to continue to explore that, because it taught me a lot. Marty, you don't need as much as you think you do every single day. You can meet yourself where you are, and that's what I did. The other place that was a little bit different than I thought it would be is I did think that with nothing to do, with sort of nothing on the agenda, truly just being with myself and my thoughts in the desert, that I'd start to get mentally restless. But really, right from the moment I got there on my solo and put the blanket down and lied on my back, my hand on my chest, my other hand on my belly, and just sort of stayed with my breathing, I pretty much immediately realized I was going to be not only okay, but just content in the moment. And I think that the reason I expected myself to be restless is, again, a myth that I sort of carry about myself, that is, I'm hyperkinetic and I'm a doer, and, I'm inexhaustible. And sometimes that serves me in a major way, but that story has also put me in a bit of a box where sometimes I don't allow myself to just get grounded. Hello, grounding source, because it doesn't fit the story. You can't make this up. My name is Marty, and my personal training brand is literally called Marty Party. So yeah, in a way, I put a lot of pressure on myself to continue being who I've always been, which is someone with a massive energy. Um, and so to dispel that myth about myself, which I've always known isn't that real in the first place, the myth that I am incapable of just sitting and being restful as opposed to restless, and that I don't need something to do at all times. It was really good, really empowering. And I think it goes way back. Also, I spoke about this a little bit in the group work before I went solo, but I just remember as a kid using that word bored all the time. And I have found so many different activities that I'm in love with. I am nothing if not an enthusiast. You can probably just tell by the way I talk at the camera. But you know, I picked up soccer and I picked up BMX and I picked up river rafting and all these things that I could just walk out my door and do. And I'm thankful for all those things because they give me lust for life. But whenever I didn't have the ability to do those things, I would start telling my dad I'm bored. And he held space for that for a lot of years. But, you know, to some degree, he was always like, Marty, you can entertain yourself, you know, just you in space. And that's some wisdom that I'm just now picking up on. And I think it's going to be really important for me going forward in my life. And I think the last 24 hours, while in some ways it was less crazy than I thought it would be, you know, nothing that crazy about sitting down alone in the desert. We make it crazy in our society because none of us do it, but really being alone is the default. You know, we're born alone, we die alone, that old saying. But it just, I think that's the thing that I'm going to carry with me more than any other thing from Grounding Source. Is I just really affirmed and proved to myself that I'm multifaceted and I have this baseline speed that is so important for me to carry the other speed that I have. And then the last thing is like looking at how I can take this into my life every single day. You know, I also affirmed that I already do. Again, it's a myth that I don't have this low-key, deliberate, introspective ability. I do, and I just haven't called it by its name. Every day I find, luckily, the space to breathe. I have a job that I love. I have creative projects always in my life at any given moment where I sit with myself and, you know, listen to what comes out of my own mind and write it down, perform it. Sometimes I think the way that I take this into my real life, my everyday life, I should say, is I very often have only one thing that I'm doing. Maybe I don't have 0 things I have to do for 24 hours, but I very often have one thing. And having one thing to do is a lot like Grounding Source. It's when you have 4, 5, 6, 7 things to do where you've got distractions and they start to pull from your energy and they start to pull from each other and you don't really create the way you want to, whether it's a project or a relationship or a meditation. So I think I'm just going to value more those moments when I'm doing only one thing. I'm going to listen to myself in those moments and reflect back to this experience in the desert, remembering that just as much a part of me as that high energy, performative Marty party, there's this lower grounded version of me that makes the other one possible. So it was just so affirming. Again, it's just affirmation. I think the last thing I want to talk about a little bit, because a lot of my work out there, just to be honest, was to keep for myself. I very often, I share a lot. I almost see my purpose in this world as being a seeker, and I go out and I hike and I play and I explore and I observe, and I am a people person. So I come back to my clients every week and I share what I found, and in doing so bring out what they found and get this deep level discourse going about really intense stuff like life and death, you know? But a big part of my intention this time was to not only be by myself, but to hold some of what I uncover for myself. And so I just want to say that I was successful in doing that. I'm not going to share it, but I was successful in doing that, and I'm going to really cherish and hold close some of what I made and some of what I thought and some of what I saw out there for myself. And that might not sound that radical to some of you if you're watching this, but for me, that's a huge deal. And so I'm super proud of myself for the treasures that I've kept for myself.